If I needed to lose 30 pounds quickly in 2026, I would not cut carbs. I would not start training 6 days a week. And I would definitely not try and survive on chicken, salad, and willpower until the weight came off. Because that's how most people try and lose weight fast. They create a plan so aggressive that it works for 10 days. Then work gets busy or a family meal comes up, and one meal off plan becomes an entire weekend of binging. And by Monday, they're promising themselves that they'll start again next week. I've now coached over 1,000 men and women to lose fat and completely transform their body. And most of the time they have a full-time job, family responsibilities, social meals, and a history of losing weight and gaining it back. They did not need the hardest possible fat loss plan. And if that sounds like you, that's also not what you need. You need the fastest plan that you can still continue when life gets busy. Those are two completely different things. So if I had 30 pounds to lose, I would focus on these 3 things that we're gonna cover today. First, I would use the calorie compression method so that eating fewer calories becomes easier without obsessing over every single crumb of food. Secondly, I would use the invisible cardio system to increase how much I burn without exhausting myself. And thirdly, I would use the never restart structure to protect my muscle and build a routine that I would not just abandon once the diet's over. People usually fail because the method they use requires them to become a completely different person. So let's start with the first part, the part that actually determines whether your diet lasts for 12 weeks or just ends up collapsing by next Friday. Which brings me on to the calorie compression method. Most people think that losing weight quickly means drastically making their food portions smaller. They remove all the rice, the bread, the pasta. They replace their normal dinner with something that just looks like a side dish. That might mean that they've got lower calories, but the real problem in this scenario appears 2 hours later. They're still hungry. They start picking at food by nighttime when they feel like they could just eat anything in the house. And that's why eating less is not a complete strategy. You can force yourself to eat less at one meal. The question is whether that one meal keeps you in control later in the day. And that's where the calorie compression method comes in. At most main meals, you need to eat in this order. Protein first, vegetables or another high fiber food second. Then you add in your main carbohydrate source last. That could mean eating most of the chicken before moving onto your vegetables and carbs last. At a restaurant or family dinner, it means eating the protein and the vegetables before deciding how much of the chips, the potato, the pasta that you actually want. This is called meal sequencing, and it's not magic. The same plate of food does not suddenly contain fewer calories, purely just because you ate it in a different order. But that's not the point. By the time you reach the most calorie-dense part of the meal, you're no longer eating with that same level of hunger. Protein is filling, whilst the high-fiber foods add volume, and they also give your appetite time to catch up. Think of your hunger like arriving to a supermarket with a completely empty trolley. If you're starting off in the supermarket in the sweets and the snacks aisle, of course you're gonna fill your trolley before actually deciding what you really need. But if you start with the foods that genuinely satisfy you, you're going to arrive at the calorie-dense options with a much calmer appetite. You can still eat them, you're just going to be far less likely to binge on them. This is especially useful for busy people who survive on coffee, who rush their lunch and just arrive at home stressed, tired, and to be honest, just absolutely starving. At that point, your plan is competing with both hunger and decision fatigue. So I would make sure that every single one of your meals contains a proper protein anchor. Chicken, lean beef, fish, eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, or another protein source. There's so many different options because this really gives your meal structure and also keeps you satisfied. This was a key part of our client Sonia's transformation. She's 54 years old and she spent over 10 years eating in a way that didn't align with her goals because she went from having an active job to a change in her lifestyle. But once we implemented this method, she changed her habits, how she was eating, and it made sure that she was feeling more full and she had more energy. And then she could actually be consistent with her calorie deficit without feeling like she's being restricted. Staying lean does not mean you need to avoid your social meals. You just need to make sure that there's a little bit more intention behind the decisions that you're making. That is very different from arriving at a social meal, already starving, eating half of the bread that they give to you before you've even decided what you want to eat, and then wondering why your calorie target is so hard to control. This is exactly the same position that our client Sonia found herself in. She thought carbs were the problem, but actually she just struggled because her day had no structure with her nutrition. She would skip meals and then come home absolutely starving. But once she had more structure, she was in control and she didn't have to be scared of eating meals with her family anymore. If you're watching this and you know that you struggle with the structure of your day-to-day routine when it comes to your fitness journey, I've created a completely free fitness audit that you can complete. The link is in the description. It should only take you about 5 minutes. You can fill it out and get some personalized recommendations on where you need to improve specifically for you with your body, your lifestyle, with the structure in your day. That's going to help you be consistent long enough to actually see results. So if that sounds like something you want to do, make sure you click the link below. But controlling food intake is only one side of the equation. If you want to lose 30 pounds quickly without constantly lowering your food, you also need to increase your movement levels. And this is where most people make walking far more complicated than it actually needs to be. This is what I call the invisible cardio system, because most people think that cardio only counts when it's extremely sweaty and painful. If they're not sweating heavily or running fast, they assume it's not doing anything. So they decide to start running 4 times a week. They complete 4 brutal sessions. They feel sore, they feel hungrier, and then work gets busy and the plan just disappears. But the problem isn't that cardio does not work. It's that they chose a version with far too much friction. If I needed to lose 30 pounds quickly, I would choose a movement that I could actually be consistent with most days. And that's why I would use the invisible cardio system. It has 2 parts to it: a deliberate walk in the morning and a short walk after 1 or 2 main meals. Morning walking is important because it gets a load of steps banked before your day's even started. The later that you leave an important behavior in your transformation, the far more opportunities there are in your day to interfere, like a meeting running over at work, or your kids suddenly decide that they need to be picked up. And by the evening, that walk just feels optional. Think of your daily movement like paying an important bill. You could wait until the end of the month and just hope that there's something left. Or you could make sure it's accounted for first, before budget gets allocated on everything else. The morning walk pays a part of your movement bill before the day even gets a vote. That could be 20 minutes walk before work, or after the school run, or even on a walking pad at home. The method matters less than making it repeatable. If you currently average 4,000 steps a day and you start aiming for 15,000, you've created another extreme plan. Instead, add 1.5k to 2k steps to your daily average. Once that feels normal and is part of your habits, then you can add more. For many busy people, aiming for 8 to 12,000 steps a day will make a massive difference. It simply just creates daily energy expenditure for you without needing a massive amount of recovery. The second half is that post-meal walking. After your lunch or dinner, walk around for 10 minutes. You don't need gym clothes. You don't need to power walk. You're simply interrupting the habit of eating a large meal and then just becoming inactive. Your muscles use energy as you walk, and it can reduce that heavy post-meal feeling. But the biggest advantage is behavioral. A 10-minute post-meal walk is so easy to attach to something that you already do. You finish dinner, you clear the table, then you walk. The meal itself becomes the reminder. This is also where family life can support the plan, rather than just being treated as an obstacle. A post-dinner walk can become time with your partner or your children. You're not disappearing for another workout. You're building movement into your normal life. This is not punishment for eating. Walking is just simply part of your lifestyle. People who regain weight often treat cardio as something that they only do whilst they're dieting. They suddenly perform endless cardio, and then life gets busy and it just completely disappears. And as you guys know, I like to give you an action step so you can start implementing right from today. So your action for the next 24 hours is to schedule one 20-minute morning walk and one 10-minute walk after one of your main meals. Put that morning walk into your calendar and then choose one meal that's going to trigger the post-meal walk. Do not wait to see whether you feel motivated. Decide before the day begins. The meal sequencing that we spoke about in the first point is going to help control your food intake. Then this walking is going to raise your expenditure. But if your entire plan is only eating less and moving more, you can still lose the wrong kind of weight, which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. The third point, which is the never restart structure. Because most people say that they want to lose weight, but what they really want is to lose fat. You could force the scale down by eating very, very little, doing endless amounts of cardio and losing Yes, fat, but also a lot of muscle too. You may become lighter, but you'll probably also feel soft, weak, and not actually happy with how you look. Then your difficult plan ends and the weight starts returning. This is exactly why resistance training matters. It gives your body a reason to hold on to muscle whilst your calories are a little bit lower. The way I want you to imagine this is think of a company cutting costs. If there's a section of the company that's not really being used, obviously that's going to be easier to remove. But if that department in the company is being used, challenged, and is clearly contributing to the business, obviously there's a big reason to keep it. Resistance training does the exact same thing, and it sends a message that your muscle is still doing its job. You do not need to train like a bodybuilder and do 6 days of training, spending hours and hours living in the gym. For someone with a full-time job and family responsibilities, I would start with 2 to 3 resistance training sessions per week, around 30 to 60 minutes each. Each session would focus on a few fundamental movements. The aim is to become stronger whilst your body weight comes down. People often judge a fat loss workout by how exhausted it makes them. But sweat is not the score we're looking for here, guys. Soreness is not a proof of your progress. A workout can feel absolutely brutal, but still be badly structured. The question is whether you can perform it consistently, recover from it, and gradually improve over time. And this is why I call it the never restart structure. The training plan should not just be designed for your most motivated week. It should be designed for that week where work is stressful. Because if your plan only works when life is calm, then you're never going to be consistent with it. So I would choose 3 training slots in your week that are actually realistic. Not the 3 times that you wish you can train. The 3 times that I'm most likely to be able to protect most weeks. That might be Monday, Wednesday, Friday before work. Or for you, it might be 2 of your evenings and a Saturday morning. Whatever it is for you, make sure you choose those sessions properly so that you can be consistent. The schedule matters less than the weekly negotiation with yourself. When training is decided in advance, you no longer wake up asking yourself if this is a gym day. You already know, and that helps rebuild something far more important than just muscle. It rebuilds that trust in yourself that you've been missing for such a long time. Most people who repeatedly stop and start don't just only doubt the diet, they doubt their own promises that they make to themselves. And eventually, they just stop believing in themselves. So your goal for the first few weeks is not to prove that you can suffer, it's to prove that you can actually follow through. So find a gym, shorten your workouts, and complete the key movements. This is going to keep your routine alive. Consistency means that imperfect conditions no longer mean that you disappear for 3 months. So your action to take after watching this video is decide your 3 training slots. So if I needed to lose 30 pounds quickly, this is exactly what the system would look like. At my main meals, I would use the calorie compression method. Protein first, high fiber foods second, and carbohydrates last. Not because carbs need to be feared whatsoever. 100% you still need them in your plans. But because controlling the order helps you reach your more calorie dense foods with a calmer appetite. Then I would use the invisible cardio system, a deliberate walk earlier in the day, and then a short walk after your lunch or your dinner or both. Not to punish myself for eating, but to create movement for when you're still busy. Then I would use the never restart structure. 3 realistic resistance training sessions focused on maintaining or improving strength as the weight comes down. The power here with these 3 rules is how they complement one another. Meal sequencing makes the deficit easier. Walking increases your expenditure without draining your energy. And resistance training is going to protect your muscle, but also gives your week a structure. Exactly how I would approach losing 30 pounds fast. But also I would define fast properly. Fast does not mean forcing the scale down as much as possible for 2 weeks. Fast means making measurable progress without just going back to square one, because every single restart costs you time. The extreme plan might look faster on day 1, but the repeatable plan is usually way more far ahead on day 90. This is about proving that work, family, social life, travel don't need to control this area of your life. It's about rebuilding the confidence that comes from doing what you said you were going to do. 1 meal, 1 walk, 1 training session at a time. Now, if you've made it this far and you are serious about losing weight and getting in the best shape of your life, to rebuild your energy and really create a routine specific to you that you can be consistent with, there's a link in the description where you can apply for one-to-one coaching with me. But this is not for someone that's just looking for another quick fix. This is for people who are really ready to level up their systems, their habits, their mindset in their life. People that can be coachable, accept accountability, and bring their body up to the standards that they set in all other areas of their life. Apply with the link below in the description if that sounds like you. But other than that, before you go, make sure you watch the video that's popped up on the screen right now, because this is really going to show you in detail how you can create a calorie deficit without extreme dieting, without cutting out family meals, or without letting fitness completely control your life. Other than that, that's all from me, guys. I'll see you in the next one.